Tưng bừng kỷ niệm 6 năm thành lập Teletron Eden Center, Washington DC. Kính mời quý đồng hương tham dự 2 ngày nhạc hội miễn phí.
Thứ Bảy ngày 25 tháng 9 từ 3 giờ chiều đến 9 giờ tối và Chủ nhật 26 tháng 9 từ 12 giờ trưa đến 6 giờ chiều với sự góp mặt của nhiều ca nghệ sĩ nổi tiếng:
Khánh Hà,
Trần Thái Hòa,
Hương Thủy,
Mạnh Quỳnh,
Nguyễn Hồng Dung,
Mai Thanh Sơn,
Châu Ngọc Hà,
Ngọc Ngữ,
Ngọc Hương,
Phương Hồng Quế,
hai kịch Bảo Quốc và Hồng Loan,
cổ nhạc Ngọc Huyền,
MC Nam Lộc Kiều Chinh, Việt Thảo, Giá Ngọc.
Sẽ có hàng trăm quà tặng bất ngờ dành cho khán giả.
Đặc biệt nhân dịp này, nữ tài tử Kiều Chinh sẽ ra mắt hồi ký Kiều Chinh nghệ sĩ lưu vong.
Teletron Washington DC trong khu Eden 703 237 8999.
Trang nhà teletronusa.com.
Thưa quý vị, ghế massage Luraco là ghế duy nhất được sản xuất tại Hoa Kỳ, là ghế duy nhất được làm vật lý trị liệu cho các quân nhân trong các căn cứ quân sự Hoa Kỳ, là ghế duy nhất có được những bằng chứng khoa học về tính năng vật lý trị liệu hiệu quả. Ghế massage Luraco đã nhận được nhiều giải thưởng danh dự như Top Medical Massage Chair tại Hollywood, sản phẩm chất lượng cao nhất tại cuộc triển lãm quốc tế ở Las Vegas.
Yes. Councilmember Monzo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nguyen?
Yes.
And Mayor Ta.
Yes.
That motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have public hearings. So, Assistant City Manager, can you please
Okay, so
read the rule?
due to COVID-19 restrictions, changes have been made to the public hearing process in order to ensure members of the public may participate remotely. So members of the public who wish to address the City Council were able to in writing up to 24 hours prior to the meeting. In lieu of written comments, members of the public who wish to speak tonight may raise their hands or had the opportunity to send a request in advance, which I did not receive any. So with that said, speakers will have a total of 5 minutes to speak.
All right, so I'd like to open public hearing item 4.1, fiscal year 20/21, consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. May I have a staff report?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Michael Sun. I'm the Housing Specialist in the Community Development Department. So the purpose of tonight's item is to open a public hearing regarding the city's consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, also known as the CAPER, inclusive of any public comments, and authorize the interim city manager to execute all required documents for submission to HUD. So the CAPER is June 30th, 2021, or yes. A draft of the CAPER was available for public review beginning on September 3rd on the city's website, as well as available at city's public counters. I'd like to highlight some accomplishments during the past fiscal year. Senior Outreach Center assisted 725 persons with needed grab-and-go meals and other essential items. Our Family Resource Center provided a variety of support groups, parenting classes, youth enrichment, and recreation programs to 230 households. Meals on Wheels Orange County Home Delivered Meals Program prepared and served 12,387 meals to seniors. Our Summer Youth Program assisted 39 students with grab-and-go lunch program and distributed weekly themed craft educational kits. Our Public Works Department resurfaced portions of 4 residential streets. Through the city's Neighborhood Pride Multifamily Rental Inspection Program, 220 certificates of compliance were issued, and currently 75 housing units received violations and are working towards code compliance. Through the city's tenant-based rental assistance program that was administered by a nonprofit organization, provided assistance income due to COVID-19, received 3 months of rental assistance through the WCARES rental assistance program. And with that, that concludes my staff report. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your report. Any question for staff from member on the City Council? All right, so I'd like to open public hearing or public comments.
Okay, so I did not receive any e-comments or requests in advance. So anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. And our first speaker is Terry Raines.
Good evening. I have already commented on the 2020-2021 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, CAPER, which must be submitted to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD by the end of this month. The city had a total of $4,904,357 in federal CDBG and home funding available to spend in FY 2021, which included $1,342,290 in CARES Act CDBG-CB money. The city only spent $1,855,171 of these funds in fiscal year 2021, just 38%. While I understand the city is trying to accumulate a sizable amount of home funds for an affordable housing project not yet identified, and that this was a unique year due to the pandemic, this report and previous year's reports do indicate that the city has some problems maybe internally related to program creation, administration, and community outreach and communication. Most prominent in this report is what the city did not do with these available funds in fiscal year 2021, as opposed to what the city did do. Only 3 people experiencing homelessness were helped by way of the Westminster Homeless Rapid Rehousing Program, even though there was funding to help 25, a total of $95,000. The reason given is the county had a similar program that was utilized instead, but why is that, and why not help everyone we can? Under the Neighborhood Pride Multifamily Rental Inspection Program, only 75 of the 200 proposed multifamily housing units received code enforcement violations and were mitigated. Even more disappointing is the fact that there was no interest at all and 0 applications from owners wanting to receive assistance through the companion Neighborhood Pride Multifamily Rental Rehabilitation Program, 0. According to the report, the Neighborhood Pride Improvement Area number 3 is bound by Trask Avenue to the north, Hazard Street to the south, Edward Street to the west, and Hoover Street to the east. The area is predominantly low to moderate income and was selected based on the concentration of multifamily housing observed to be in violation of the Westminster Municipal Code and the Property Standards Ordinance. That area is mostly in Council District 2, although 2 sizable portions are in Council District 1. What I found interesting is that those are the 2 districts in the city with the lowest percentage of Asian residents. District 2, 43%, and District 1, 27%, according to the Yellow Map demographics. Yet the report indicates 63% of those helped by these programs were Asian. Something isn't adding up, even taking into account some programs were citywide. As I have suggested before, the city needs to more closely reevaluate these funding programs, focusing on program creation and administration, and more importantly, outreach efforts to the community about these opportunities. Other cities have created efficient and effective programs that ensure as many people as possible in the community that need it benefit directly each and every year. How often have we heard city staff claim there is no money to do anything? Well, there's plenty of money available. The city just needs to learn how to better identify and apply for funding opportunities, and then know exactly how best to invest the money in our community. The model for the 2021-22 CAPER is do better. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other comment from member of the public?
So next speaker.
Hi, this is Jody Boyd. Regarding the report that I'll get to you in a second, Charlie, don't worry. In regards to Terry Rain's comment, I just want to say that, yeah, I think funding has been underutilized and there is a very large need in District 1. Charlie, don't you live in District 1? Why don't you and I get together and we can go together all through District 1 and do some outreach? I can introduce you to a few apartment buildings, but also many people who don't even have apartments and are sleeping on the sidewalk.
Nhưng mà
Thank
bà ấy lấy cái tên trên màn ảnh là Chí Tạ Maya, thị trưởng Chí Tạ không phải là lãnh đạo của tôi. Thành ra cái chữ đó nó hiện lên màn ảnh.
I have no additional speakers.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to close public comments. Next would be Mayor and Council Member Action. All right, so I'd like to move as staff recommended.
I second it.
All All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item.
So I have a motion from Mayor Ta and a second from Vice Mayor Nguyen, and that was to approve the fiscal year 2020-2021 consolidated annual performance and evaluation report from CDBG and home federal funds, and authorize the acting city manager to transmit this report to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development by September 20th, 2021. Roll call vote. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Monzo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nguyen?
Yes.
And Mayor Ta?
Yes.
That motion carried 5-0.
Next, we have regular business item 5.1, leasing of city vehicle to enterprise, leasing for fiscal year 21 to 22. May I have a staff report? Thank you.
Good evening, mayors, vice mayor, member of the council. This is Jake Nolan, Public Works Director. Yes, so this is the vehicle leasing program for the cities that we have been for 9 years entering this agreement. It's been very successful programs that we have added a total of 86 vehicles of the cities into this program. It's a leasing agreement here. And these vehicles also including the police patrol vehicles. So this year we are adding 9 more patrol vehicle, which is SUV, and which help with the fuel consumptions and the safety. With the program for these 9 vehicles, that's saving the cities more than $100,000 for over the next 4 years. We have been successfully executed this program, and as a lot of other agencies have been calling our staff and inquiring this program. So we are using the Sourcewell as a program that we piggyback on, in order to save the money. And with the new vehicles, that allow us to have a better fuel consumption, as well as a safety features and technology as hybrid, as well as electric vehicles in the future. So that's conclude my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much for your report. Any question or comment from member of the City Council?
Yeah, I have a question, Jake. When you say saving, how do we save when we lease a vehicle? We just rent the vehicle. We never own that vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate so we can have a better understanding of how the operation works?
Absolutely. So for leasing vehicle, for a typical leasing vehicle, that yes, we only pay the leasing fee, but not the upfront cost. So what happened is the vehicle depreciation varies sharply over 5, 6, 7 years. In the past practice that we purchased, we put a major capital upfront, purchased those vehicles, and then by the time that we turn them back to auctions, we basically receive 0 to almost nothing in returns. So with this leasing program, within 3 or 4 years, we have been pointed back to the program itself, and there's there's a residual value that put them back into the program, and it saves us the major investment hitting the general fund all at once, but we can spread it out over like 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Okay, are we self-insure on our vehicles?
Yes, sir. I think we have a self-insure.
Self-insure, okay. So we have to pay for all the maintenance, or that's including the lease?
Yes, sir. What happened with new vehicles is less in the maintenance frequency of the vehicles. It's also saving as a maintenance versus the one that we purchase and own.
Okay, so the leasing company responsible for routine maintenance, is that correct? Or including the major repairs?
We are responsible for the major and the maintenance. They only have any recall, then we will take them back to those dealers.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I have a question, Jake. Thank you for your report. So you're saying that we're gonna add vehicles. You said 9 more vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then I noticed that we have some vacancies in staffing at both City Hall and Police Department. That's been taken into account, and also, has there been an assessment as far as are the vehicles all being utilized, or we don't have any vehicles just sitting around, not being used.
Absolutely. Each department will be putting the need for the vehicles for, into our fleet programs. And for the vacancy, what we know of, all the vehicles have been put in service. For example, PD vehicle, SUV, they've been put out in service immediately. And from what I know, that we don't have any vehicle that's sitting around and not being used by the city staff.
And are those vehicles that are being requested by the departments, are they fine?
Yes, sir. Each department will put in request for the vehicle replacements.
For a vehicle replacement, not for an extra vehicle, more vehicles.
No, sir. It's just replacement. So these 9 will be taken out. The other 9 that we have owned, and we don't get pretty much values of those 9.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
No problem.
All right. Is there any other comment?
I move to approve.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as recommended.
That was a motion made by Vice Mayor Nguyen and a second from Councilmember Monzo. Roll call vote. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Monzo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nguyen?
Yes.
And Mayor Ta?
Yes.
That motion carried 5-0.
All right, item 5.3, resolution in support of the establishment of the Southern California Veteran Cemetery in the city of Anaheim, California.
I think you are missing 5.2, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, 5.2, a contract for the utility underground project on Bose Avenue and Rockhurst Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
That was a motion made by Councilmember Doe and a second from Mayor Ta, and that was to approve the award of contract to the lowest and responsive bidder in the amount of $1,714,323 to Arizona Pipeline Company and reject all other bids. Authorize a 10% contingency in the amount of $171,432.30 for potential change. Member Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Monzo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nguyen?
Yes.
And Mayor Ta?
Yes.
That motion carried 5-0.
All right, item 5.3, resolution in support of the establishment of Southern California Veterans Cemetery in the city of Anaheim, California.
A motion.
Move to approve.
The motion and second to approve as recommended.
Was a motion by Vice Mayor Nguyen and a second from Councilmember Monzo, and that was to adopt a resolution entitled "A Resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Westminster supporting the Gypsum Canyon site for the Southern California Veterans Cemetery in the city of Anaheim." Roll call vote. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Monzo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nguyen?
Yes.
And Mayor Ta?
Yes.
That motion carried 5-0.
All right, next item 5.4, request to reinstate mobile home rehabilitation rent program. So basically, I request to have this item on agenda so all of us we have opportunity to discuss. We are aware that our city will receive the CARE Act funding. So I talked to staff and I realized that we still have several applicants a few years ago who applied for mobile home rehabilitation. So I hope that, the city council will look into it and hope those who apply, I think a few years ago and didn't have a chance to receive a rent from us, because after that, at that year, I think that we did not have any more money. So that is the item that I propose in front of the council.
I have a question for staff.
Please.
I don't know, the 29 applicants that they turned in the application probably a couple of years ago, and this is for mobile homes. And we also estimated the cost is around $435,000. But up until now, do you know that if any of them are, do we still have 29 applicants? Maybe, you know, some of them they already sold their properties and then they move on. I don't know that the number 29 is still exists or is probably lower.
It could very well be lower. No, we did not vet the 29 people that are still on the list before the staff report was created. So it's possible that it could be less.
But if, let's say it's come down to 25, for example, so additional money, what are we going to do? We are going to stop there, or we are going to receive more extra 4 applicants, or what? I have no idea.
I mean, I think that would be at the council's decision, how you wanted to handle that. I do think just logistically, it would be very difficult to say, we'll take 4 more people. And, you know, that's a pretty narrow amount, but I mean, you can.
I agree. Just a question.
Well, may I speak?
Please. Can I ask a question first?
All right.
Yeah, it's you know, it's way before my time, so I have no idea what it is. Could you would be so kind explain it to me, where we get the funding and how did it work and how the money was used for, Alexa? Appreciate it.
Sure. Historically, this program was generally funded through a redevelopment agency. So the redevelopment agency was sunset in 2012. However, there was a process to continue over a certain period of time if you met certain legal requirements to continue to fund programs that were already in place with contracts and so forth. So that funding source, redevelopment funds are gone. We no longer have access to those. That's no more. So the redevelopment agency funds were a little bit looser, I guess you could say, compared to home funds or other federal grants. They were locally controlled. The set of rules that applied were different, so it was easier logistically and legally to provide grant funding for these types of services. Not having access to that money anymore definitely limits our ability to execute a program like this. Now, certainly you can use general fund for something like this. However, if you want to use something that's really focused on housing, we do have home funds that come to the city annually. Those are federal grant funds that can be used for this purpose. However, there's a different set of rules that apply. So that's kind of what's alluded to in the staff report when it talks about, you know, if we give $10,000 to each mobile home, you know, it will cost us probably $15,000 because we have to stick to the rules of the federal program, which requires quite a bit of inspections, a lot of paperwork and processing and so forth. So the program itself was intended to simply help mobile home park owners upgrade their mobile home park dwellers, upgrade their unit, upgrade their coach. In redevelopment days, there was a much looser definition of what those upgrades could include. Under home rules, it's definitely more strict. And so that's why there is quite a bit of administration in there because of the inspections and the construction management that needs to go in. Home has a series of regulations on the types of upgrades that can be done, health and safety, of course, being the #1 priority for those. And then under home, in addition to, so we can set an amount of $10,000 per unit, but if we get into that unit and the inspector finds that additional improvements are needed to make it actually livable and meet the health and safety codes, then we are obligated to provide that additional assistance. So we can set a cap of $10,000, but to some degree that won't always be the cap.
Vấn đề liên quan tới nghị quyết vinh danh diễn viên Ngô Thanh Vân thì chưa có tới. Hiện nay thì đang những cái phần quan tới dân sinh của thành phố Westminster, ví dụ mà đang nói chuyện về thành phố hỗ trợ cho những người dân để có cái tiền để
I mean, it's basically just $10,000 to upgrade a mobile home. unit.
10.000 đô la cho
Is there any
mỗi cái gia đình mà sống trong mấy
you
cái
talk
ngôi
about
nhà
safety
mà
and
gọi
all
là
that
ngôi
stuff.
nhà di động.
That's a criteria basically. But where do we
Cho
right now?
29 cái đơn
4 or 5 years pass,
được nhận.
and where do we
Mỗi
find the money
đơn
to
được 10.000 đô la.
to fund these applicants who put in their name in the hat like 4 years ago?
What's proposed in the staff report is to utilize home funds. Those are the federal grant funds that we receive on an annual basis. You would be able to use general fund money, but other than that, we don't really have a viable source for this.
Okay, home fund. How much do we receive every year?
About $450,000 annually. It varies a little bit from year to year, but about that.
Okay, thank you.
Ông Tài Đỗ vừa mới hỏi về cái ngân sách hàng năm thành phố nhận được để mà trên góp
earlier
cho mấy cái chuyện sửa nhà. Cô thư ký hay là
I think that
về cái việc đó nói là khoảng chừng 450.000 đô.
I don't know where to begin, but I'm a little bit
phát biểu.
Kind of shocked at how simple, the author of this agenda thinks. And I think it's quite involved, and I just want to share with you what I know and, complement to what Alexa had said so far. And so basically, I understand that we all want to help, in that spirit and fit and all that. But I want to paint a very clear picture. And so that I'm going to jump right down to the conclusion. My conclusion is that we cannot do such, we can't help to do that, and I will explain why. And what are we going to forego when we do this? So first of all, we are talking about putting this on this agenda on to discuss the feasibility of reinstating the mobile home rehab grant program. Okay. So reinstating the mobile home rehab grant program. Well, we're not talking about using FEMA money, one-time grant. We're talking about, I hope you know that we're talking about using our home funds, and that's home funds. We are only getting $450,000 a year, and that is going to, we're putting it in a piggy bank, hoping one day we're going to have about $3 million a year. And Alexa, tell me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we would use money like that. We need $3 million or so in order to get in order to build permanent housing or tenant-based rental assistance housing, such as, and you've seen a De La Rosa project. You've seen our Westminster crossings, which I believe we're going to have a ribbon cutting next month, or if not this month. And so I'm very proud of those projects. And when I came on board, I remember the De La Rosa project. And correct me, our city contributed about $1.5 million or maybe $2 million towards De La Rosa project, and that comes from the home funds, correct?
Actually, De La Rosa, it
might have
put
been
in $2.6 million, but it was redevelopment funds. It was leftover redevelopment funds that went in there.
Okay, but then the home funds are for us to use to build such projects, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. That is the intent.
Okay, so that is intended for us to use. Whatever it is we used before, maybe we had money that we could, previously in the past, where we helped with mobile home rehab, and we call it a grant program, but we no longer can do that. And we should not. I want to tell you, I want to explain to you that what are we foregoing? So before we vote, I want to make sure we understand that here we are only receiving $450,000 a year. And it's going to take us, and I believe we have $1.5 million in our bank account in home funds, correct? It'll take us another 3 years for us to have $3 million for us to do a project as nice as De Rosa, Westminster Crossing. Now, we've been talking about the RENA numbers. We've been talking about affordable housing. We've been talking about homelessness. And so we cannot be sitting here talking about helping 29. Not that I don't want to help. I'd love to help. But I want to put everything in perspective for everybody so that we understand that what are we foregoing when we take this money to do this? So historically, I know when I asked in 2017, it cost $3,000 to $3,500 to actually to implement, or
Bà
shall I say,
Kimberly Hồ đang phàn
to do one
việc
loan, correct?
thành
Could you
phố
give me a second while I turn
vẫn
volume? Yeah.
làm sử dụng cái số tiền cung cấp cho cái việc mà sửa nhà với 450.000.
So I apologize. But today it's costing us $5,000.
Hiện nay thì nhiều thành phố đã quay trở lại họp trực tiếp rồi, nhưng thành phố Westminster vẫn
so
họp
basically,
online qua
what's
Zoom
our cost?
vì
50% on
cái
every
lý do liên
10,000
quan tới đại dịch Covid.
for every $10,000 spent.
Nhưng mà
That
thành
is
phố kế cận như là Garden
incredibly
Grove
high.
hay là
If we put it in perspective,
Palm
our
Valley,
credit card
sinh
interest
hoạt
run
rất là bình
around
thường
15
là
to 20%. This is 50%. Would you pay out of your pocket such outrageous rate if it were your own money? I don't think so. Then why are you proposing that our city spend like that? Okay, so
Kimberly Hồ đặt là quý vị có sử dụng
so
cái
I
đồng
want
tiền
to say
quý vị theo
that
cách như
I
thế
don't know if you understand
mà
what
lại
is covenant
sử
and
dụng cái
no
đồng tiền của
covenant.
thành phố như thế.
Could you please explain so that we are on the same page? Because this here is a program that basically we have no way of controlling what kind of income, or because it's not a permanent housing, it's not a low income type of project or anything like that. So we're talking about these mobile home people that maybe they got money. So who exactly are helping? Do we have any jurisdiction?
Bà Kimberly Hồ muốn tìm hiểu thật
Can
rõ,
we implement some
thành
low
phố phải
income
tìm hiểu thật
criteria
rõ
to
là
control the rent?
những người mà sẽ
Could
được
you
nhận cái số
explain the
tiền
no
10.000 đô để
covenant
sửa nhà như
versus
thế này đó,
covenant? And
những người
what
sống
is
trong
this,
những căn
covenant
nhà
or no
mà
covenant?
di động như vậy đó,
Alexis,
thì có thực sự
So the program that's proposed here and under home, to receive assistance, the tenant would need to income qualify as a low income tenant.
người phụ
There'll
trách
be a
trả
cap
lời
on the income
là
that they can make.
muốn nhận được số tiền thì đúng
However,
là
as a
những
part of
người
this
mà chủ
program, we
nhà
do
đó phải
not put a
có
covenant on
đủ
the
cái tiêu
unit.
chuẩn
So
về
when we talk about covenants, we can take Delarosa, for example. When we put together an affordable housing project, we put a covenant on the unit, and that covenant will restrict the level of income that the resident of that unit can have, and it will restrict the amount of rent they can pay based on that income level. And so we put those covenants into place, and depending on the funding source, determines the length of that covenant. So it can be 30 years. Many of our projects are 55-year covenants because they were redevelopment funded, and that was the standard for redevelopment. So this program that's proposed under the home program does not put a covenant on the unit. So while we very commonly find that residents of mobile home parks are low income, there's nothing that would restrict that unit if we were to assist it into the future. It would just be restricted to the person that's living in it now and the income that they make. They still do have to qualify, but there's nothing that covenants the unit into the future.
Right. So then explain what is the difference between, so what about Del Rosa and Westminster Crossings?
Both of those have 55-unit covenants on the units.
For how long?
55 years. Sorry, 55 years.
Okay. So basically, like I said, we can't really pass out money to everybody. Unfortunately, we just don't have that kind of money to do that. So what's our return on investment? So basically, what are we foregoing? Number one is staff time. So I know that we talked about hiring a consultant, and this consultant is going to cost $5,000. Charge $5,000, and when asked, it's for a very complicated, or shall I say, very involved administrative paperwork and things like that. Correct? And so it used to be $3,500, but now inflation is probably most likely be $5,000. So does that keep you out of it? And I believe there are only two people involved in when we talk about housing, we have Michael Sun, correct? Our housing specialist, and yourself. So is this like no time at all? You won't be involved at all? Does it take any of your time?
Yeah, staff will definitely be involved. The consultant that we hire would be primarily for construction inspection and an expert in the field of being in the unit, understanding the types of improvements that need to happen to meet the health and safety code and the regulations of home. And then they will also be a part of the construction management project, so the improvements that are done over time. Here at the staff level, we would absolutely be doing a lot of the just kind of the one-on-one assistance for the tenants. It is not a small application process to become vetted, to go through the process of proving up your income. We do, historically, we've required that the tenants to be the person that orchestrates receiving bids for the work that needs to be done. These people are just, they're you and me. They're not used to doing construction. So there's a lot of hand-holding that goes on in there to help put those pieces together, to connect them to vendors that will give them a quote, to make sure that they're getting everything that they need. And then just paperwork, frankly. I mean, home funds, CDBG funds, it's the same. There's a lot of paperwork. We go through regular audits. So yes, there will absolutely be staff time outside of what we pay the consultant to assist on the construction side.
So our staff time, meaning the two of you, the time away from your work. Yes. And okay, so what about, okay, so basically we've got a program that gives us longevity, right? 55 years or 30 years minimum. And then we get explain to us the wraparound service that they would be receiving. Explain that. If they were to be if you have a low income person and they get into a program like the low income, like De La Rosa or Westminster Crossing. So when we're talking about the wraparound service, could you explain more? How does that help our low income, or shall I say, affordable housing individuals?
For De La Rosa and Westminster Crossing, both of those have permanent supportive housing units that are intended for formerly unhoused individuals or couples. So both of those developments will have much stronger wraparound service support in order to make sure that those residents are successful in staying in a home and providing a vast array of services. For affordable housing complexes, the amount of service can vary, but definitely there's always an effort by the developer and the property manager to continue to keep those households, healthy, safe, and moving forward. So a lot of times you see things like access to job training services, homework clubs for kids. You'll see, trying to connect all those families and individuals to the community and the other services. Healthcare is another good example. So those are the types of services that you would see on site at one of these developments. We do, through Home, we fund a tenant-based rental assistance program as well. And that is an eligible use of home funds that provides rental assistance to individuals that meet income restrictions. Right now, our current program, I believe, is 50% below the area median income. And those are also services that are provided through a tenant-based rental assistance program where we contract with a vendor. In this case, the program we contract with Interval House. So Interval House helps these households. Initially, there's a financial assistance to get them stabilized in their housing so they can make rent. But then there's also a process where they're providing services to these people to make sure that they can stay in their home. And that may be, again, something like access to education, financial education, how to run a budget, how to make sure that you can get the services that you need and still afford to pay the rent in your unit. Maybe the unit that you're in isn't the right fit for you, and they may, help you find another place to live that's going to be more affordable or for whatever reason is a better circumstance for your family. So those are the types of things that you would see in a tenant-based rental assistance program, which we do use Home for.
I think Councilmember Holt Rose.
Yes. and be like busy with these projects, would you say, would you be spending more time with the next affordable?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Ho, you're cutting out. I can't hear your question.
I'm saying that that's necessary for you to put towards your next affordable project. Yeah, I'm very cognizant of your time. The last time we approved, I mean, I know from now on to look into how intrusive it is, you know, with staff time. So, I mean, I would appreciate if you could report that from now on and not wait until I ask or until I bring it forth. You know what I'm saying? Because that to me is huge, because we only have two, you know, two people, you and Mr. Michelson. So so this program. So by the way, the Del Rosa project, for instance, and
sorry, Councilmember Ho, you're cutting off again.
I gave two examples, and the Westminster Crossings project. Do those count?
Không biết là internet của thành phố hay là internet của những cái người gọi vào mà có vấn đề rất là khó. Và chính họ cũng đang nói là họ rất là khó nghe.
Can I ask a few questions? We have technical difficulties.
Dường như là cái internet của nghị viên Kimberly Hồ có vấn đề.
Councilmember Ho, I think you're having some technical issues there. I just want to keep this short. I think this is a long conversation.
We're trying to mute
Bà
her.
Kimberly
We can't
Hồ
either.
không biết là vấn đề của cái internet của bà có vấn đề cho nên tiếp tục nói, nhưng mà những người khác không có nghe được.
Can you hear me okay?
No.
Absolutely not.
Can you hear me okay?
No.
All right, so Councilmember Menzel, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just, like I said, I'll keep this short. Councilmember Ho brought up some interesting points, and community developer gave us a rundown of all the different variety of ways that the home funds, the little bit of home funds that we do receive, can help a larger amount of people, and with a low income or an affordable housing project. Unfortunately, we don't have any more redevelopment funding to play with, and to be able to have that luxury to help people at mobile home parks like this. So I think our money, the little bit of home funding money that we do get, would be better served and with the affordable housing project. I appreciate Mary trying to help some people here, but you know, this is a long time project that happened a while back ago, and we really don't have. It's going to take a lot of work for us to even to go back and vet these current individuals who still have an application, if they even are still in the same situation, if they're still living there for one, and are they still in the same income qualification. I'm assuming you have to have be able to qualify for this money. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of work would have to go into to help just a few individuals when we're in desperate need of affordable housing. You see how Alexa gave us the examples of the type of individuals that would be able to benefit from an affordable housing project. And right now, with the homeless situation we have, we can house, you know, individuals who previously unhoused. We have very low income people we can help. And at the same time, by doing that, if we do ever have the ability to build an affordable housing project like Westminster Crossing and De La Rosa, at the same time, we're beautifying our city, which is in much need of some cleaning up and some beautification. We'll be doing both. So yeah, I'm not in favor of this, so I would not be supporting it. So, thank you.
Yeah, I completely understand and agree with council member regarding the funding. And I am strong supporter of affordable housing. I think that we all been supporting feel good affordable housing in our city. So no doubt for it. But I mean, like, I just want to bring this item up to the council so we have opportunity to discuss, because I think we're all aware that the majority of the people who live in mobile home, they all have low income. Majority of them have low income, and they are seniors. So for the past several months, I received a lot of call from our senior who live in different mobile home park asking for this program, because a few years ago, our city, we're really successful in providing this service, this opportunity. So, but however, I understand all the city council. In the future, if we have extra funding, either from the federal, from the state, for mobile home rehab, I would bring it back for the city council to consider.
Before we end it here, let me ask you a question, Alexa. I know that when you give the total estimate of $435,000 and you ask for the council to consider the request to reinstate the mobile home rehab program, I'm sure that you don't receive $470,000 and you give it away to this, to the 29th family here. So when you consider $435,000 physical impact for this program, do you think that is there any other source that you use the money or you subsidize it from? I heard that Mayor Ta mentioned it at the beginning. He's talking about CARE Act funding. I don't know whether it's applicable to this one or not.
So as it relates strictly to CDBG CARES Act funding, no, that's not considered here. The majority of that funding was given out through the rental assistance program. There is kind of on a related topic, what we call the Arpa Funds, the Relief Act funds that are federal dollars that the city does receive or is in the process of receiving money from. Christine, would you like to touch on that piece?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act. So those are funds that we will be getting, from the Fed. We're in the process of receiving the funds. It's an estimate, I believe, 24 million that we'll be getting around that ballpark. And so, so those funds have very specific programs and services that they can be used for. So the feds have provided a very specific criteria for that. So we as staff are in the process of looking at that funding, and we're doing needs assessments, among the departments, looking at services, programs, conditions of, facilities and amenities that we provide to the public. And we're putting together kind of like a priorities list and a needs list. which at some point,
chuyện
will be
liên
presenting
quan tới
that to the council, in a study
danh
session
diễn
format,
viên Ngô Thanh
so
Vân sẽ
that,
còn
the
khá là
council
lâu nữa mới
can
tới
discuss
tầm
those
nửa chương trình,
funds and
một
how
cái
you
đêm dài
would
như thế này thì
like
không
to
biết lúc nào.
best use
Cho
them.
nên thôi thì chúng ta
And,
sẽ xem lại kết
again,
quả vào
we're
ngày mai
having those discussions right
để
now
biết
with
được,
staff so that we
thay
can
vì là
identify what priorities,
tiếp tục theo dõi
what we
những cái
feel
vấn
are
đề
staff
liên quan
priorities
chỉ
or
hoàn toàn
investments that
tới
we could be using it
những
for.
vấn đề dân sinh
It
của
is
thành phố
definitely not a fix for general fund. It has very specific
Westminster.
uses, but this is certainly something
Thì
that you could
có lẽ không phải là
look
quan tâm của
into
nhiều người khác.
as a possible
Vậy thì chúng ta
use.
sẽ tạm dừng chương trình ở đây.
I would say with
Chào mọi người.
mobile home grant
Từ
programs,
New York, tường thuật
in some of the discussion there,
những cái vấn đề
it
của
is
thành phố
correct. It is,
Westminster.
they are
Xin kính chào
primarily
và
low
hẹn gặp lại.
income, but we do want to look at,